going on?
I heard screams of millions of people that were coming from outside the cell. And I knew there were people in other spots, in other prison cells, in pits of fire, in large area of fire that I'll get to that I saw. But the screams were deafening, overwhelming screams. It was terrible to even endure that. But you couldn't escape it. It's so loud and piercing. So that was one of the things.
It's got to be almost like, say, a Vietnam veteran that remembers those things. It's something that you could never forget.
Right.
Screams.
No, you'll never forget them. I know I won't. But I managed to move. I noticed I had no strength in my body at all. You have no strength in hell. So I managed to somehow crawl. That's as much energy as I could get to make a move. And apparently they let me. I crawled out of the cell. And in one direction, it's completely pitch black. A darkness that was beyond any darkness that you could feel here on earth. And it was a darkness that you could feel, like it talks about in Exodus 10:21. But I looked the other direction, and there was flames of fire leaping high into the sky that was off in the distance. I knew it was about 10 miles away, this huge raging pit of fire. And it lit up the skyline just enough to see the desolate, barren wasteland. Nothing green, no life of any kind, just all barren and desolate. So at that point, I was dragged back into the cell by the demons and more torments. But after that, I was picked up and taken out of that cell and placed over near the pit of fire. And it was enormous, about a mile across, raging flames. And I could see the outlines of people in this fire, screaming. They were being burned in the fire and torment. I didn't want to go in there. It was already hot enough. But I knew I just didn't want to go into the flames. That's a terrible thing to have to suffer, and these people were burning. And there were demons all around this cell pushing the people back in as they tried to claw their way out. They really couldn't get out anyway, but the demons were just there shoving them back in. I felt so awful for the people, but also for myself. And I looked around, and I could see all these demonic creatures all around me, lying around the cavern of these walls. They're all different sizes and shapes. There were some huge, some small. There were spiders. There were maggots and worms and big snakes, everything disgusting that you would not want to be around. And they're all there with a hatred for you. You felt this hatred emanating from them.
Did you have any feeling like you could get out of that place eventually?
No.
Do your penance and go?
No. You have a knowledge. You understand eternity there. I could understand that I was there. I would never, ever get out. Never. And the pains that you suffer are really awful there. But the worst thing really is separation from God and the hopelessness that you'll never get out. And that's why the Lord wanted me to experience that I didn't know him, to call on him, because he wanted me to experience what they feel, hopelessly lost, that you'll never get out. And one of the most tormenting thoughts for me was, I thought about my wife. We're very close, and I told her if anything ever happens in the world, earthquake, tragedy, that I'd find a way to get to her. And I couldn't get to her. I would never get out. I would never see her again.
Did you hear that? I mean, that is so horrible. I mean, but it gets worse. And he has a message from God for you. Don't go away.
Hell's real. It's as real as this pitchfork here. It's as real as that. It's a real place where people go. But I want you to know that you don't have to go there. God's made a way that you don't have to wind up in a place called hell. You don't believe the Bible? Believe Bill Wiese. He's been there. 23 minutes in hell. He has a book. He's been around. He's trying to tell people. He was a Christian man. Is a Christian man. The Lord took all knowledge of Christianity out of him so that he could fully experience total separation. He had to take that out of him. She shared that with him. He also shared about how he couldn't get out. And he has a message to tell people. He didn't know that he'd be preaching in my church one day about hell. Boomers, you believe. Busters, 1998. 3 o'clock in the morning, he went there. I'm just sitting here reading out of an old book. He's sitting across satellite through YouTube trying to tell you. God's trying to get you the message. So it doesn't stop here. So this week as I was preparing for this, I came across a story that happened about 40 to 50 years ago. I want you to put this image up for me. Image 2. Researchers in Siberia, real story, 40 years ago. They were drilling in Siberia. They drilled down 4.4 kilometers into the earth's core. I believe that hell is a dimension that you go into. I don't believe hell's in the center of the earth. I don't believe that. I believe hell is a real dimension like heaven. Heaven's not up. Heaven's a dimension you step into. This dimension here will pass away. They drilled down 4.4 kilometers into the earth. And then the drill started spinning wildly like they had hit a cavern. They stopped and they pulled it out, the bit out. And they realized that when they dropped temperature probes in, that there was a cavern that was over 2,000 degrees hot. That's that story right there. Right there, there it is. Just get on the internet and check it out. Find out truth. Check it out. This was printed in a Finnish newspaper. They dropped recording devices down inside the hole, trying to determine the tectonic plates, the movement and the shift of the tectonic plates. That's what they were doing. But when they dropped the microphones down into the hole, the things that they heard when they even made adjustments to their microphones frightened these people so bad that they pulled their drills up and left. They believed that they had drilled into the cavern of hell. Now, I'm not saying they did, but I am going to tell you this here. God will use a lot of supernatural things to get your attention. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Amen. To get you a truth. Somebody is going to go to hell. But Jesus don't want you to be one of them. You don't have to be one of them. I want you to listen to